Hi there, on this screencast I'm going to show you how to move the picture box below across the screen and make sure that it always appears at the bottom of the screen. So I have my picture box here. It's called Pick Float in my case, and it basically, when the user clicks begin, it needs to be made visible. So I'm going to say pick float dot visible equals true, and then I'm also going to set its left coordinate to be the left edge of the screen. So I'm going to say pickfloat dot left equals 0. Alright, now in the event handler, I'm also going to, in the load event, I'm also going to make sure that the picture box also always appears at the very bottom of the screen when it's visible. So just as we did centering the problem and the timer and the text box, I'm going to use kind of a similar technique, and I'm going to say pick float dot top equals, and then it's going to be screen height. Okay, so however tall the height of the screen is, minus pick float dot height. So that's going to subtract out the height of the picture box from the entire length of the screen, or the entire height of the screen, and that's where the very top of the picture box is going to be. Okay, so now my next problem is I want to move the picture box across the screen every time the user gets a question right. So I'm going to go up to, let's see, where it checks to see if they got the question right. And that is going to be not in generate problem. It's going to be in the enter event. Okay, and what do I need to do? I need to say, okay, if user answer equals correct answer, so if they got the question correct, I need to move the picture box a specific number of places to the right. Okay, so I'm going to say, alright, so pick float dot left plus equals. Now, if I, let's say that the user needs to answer 5 questions correct, and the entire width of the screen is 1200. And my picture box is 100 in width. Basically, that would mean that it needs to, if I wanted to move it the entire way across the screen by the time they answer the correct number of questions right, every time they'd enter a correct number, I'd want to basically divide that 1100 or so pixels by the number of pixels that the picture box needs to move, so that each time the picture box is going to move a proportion of the way across the screen. Now I want to make this such that you can easily change the number of questions the user needs to answer. You can tweak that. You can also, it doesn't matter what screen your program's running on, it's always going to proportionally move the correct amount of pixels across the screen. So what I'm going to do is say this. Okay, so I'm going to say pickfloat.left plus equals, and I'm going to say screen width divided by, and then it's going to be, I'm going to divide it into num must answer correct. Okay, so let me see what this is how this is gonna work then. Let me give it a shot and see what. Before I even do that, let me subtract out the actual width of the float of the picture box itself. Alright, now I have in my program, I think the way it stands right now is in the load event is where I said however many the user has to answer correctly. So let me give it a shot, see what happens. Okay, so basically the picture box should move about 1/5 of the way across the screen every time the user gets one right. And yes. Alright, so now let me try it with 10 questions that they have to answer correctly. And you'll see it's working. Okay, so the nice thing about this is you can easily change how many questions the user has to answer, and you can always, no matter what you change that to, and also no matter what screen your program is running on, your picture box is always going to make it exactly the entire distance across the form by the time the user's answered as many questions as they need to answer. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add I'm going to change my label so that notice how it says game is completed. I'm going to make a new label. Well, actually, maybe I'll just change it so that instead of saying game is completed, it'll just say finished. And that should make sure that I have something that's not going to go off the screen. Alright, so let's see if this is any better. Yeah, that's better. Much better. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is say how many questions they have left to go. So I'm going to I'm going to make another label that's going to be called questions remaining, and I'm going to put that underneath the timer label. So I'm going to say, okay, and I'm going to say questions remaining. And there. So when the game starts, let's see, how many, when the game starts, questions remaining is going to be the number that they must answer correctly. So let me make sure oh, when they start the game, that label needs to become visible as well. And it would also help if I could spell questions. So when they hit begin, I'm going to say, ooh, I didn't name it. Let's name it LBL questions remaining. And so when they click begin, I'm going to say, all right, LBL questions remaining dot visible equals true. And I'm also going to say LBL questions remaining dot text equal and then what is it? It's num must answer correct, something like that. Must answer correct. Plus there. Okay, and then every time they answer one correctly, I'm going to need to update it. So I'm going to say, actually, you know what? Let me make one other variable that is going to be, let me see, what's the best way to do this? Okay, so every time they answer one correctly, it's going to subtract one from the number they've answered. They must answer correct. Okay, so if I do this, if I say, if they answer one correctly, I'm going to say, okay, LBL questions remaining equals dot text equals, okay, questions remaining plus, and now I'm going to say, in parentheses, I'm going to put num must answer correct minus num answered correct. And then let me see. Oh, yes. Up in label questions remaining, I forgot I should put questions remaining. There. All right, and that means I don't need to concatenate blank space. All right, so that's good, except that that's not very nicely centered. So let me go and recenter that label. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with centering all of the other controls. I'm going to go to the load event, and I'm going to say, okay, LBL questions remaining dot left equals screen width divided by 2 minus LBL questions remaining dot width divided by 2. All right, much better. And then 19, 10, all right, and now I've noticed that when I restart the game, it sets the time back to 0, the number of questions back to however many they need to answer, and it does move the picture box, starts it on the very left edge of the screen. Okay, we're almost done with this program. The only other thing we need to add is kind of a scoreboard that will tell the user how they've been doing in each game that they've played. So we'll take that up in the next screencast, and you're almost done. We're almost done.